Hey mom, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Lindsay. I have a really big start to the day. We had the air conditioning people here, so it's nice when you're in the South and your air conditioning works. I will tell you, I'm grateful for that. And I am getting ready to take a trip this weekend to see some friends. So I'm pretty excited. How about you? How's your day going?
I'm doing good. I can't believe you're in a blazer if the air conditioning's not working.
Well,
Hopefully it's back on now.
that's funny that you say that, but they're working on it, and my room is the closest. So they're blowing this crazy amount of cold air as they're trying to fix it. So I'm sitting in, I think it's 83 and sunny outside. The sun's pouring in my window, and I'm actually freezing when yesterday not so much. So it's pretty hilarious. So
That
yeah,
is
you're
super
funny.
hilarious.
Anyway, so I'm excited today. We get the pleasure. I was listening to a speaker this past weekend and he kept saying, "I have a get to kind of job." And that's how I view this podcast. We get to have conversations with people I admire, people I look up to, people that I have a huge amount of respect. And our guest today fits all of those categories. He's an incredibly insightful and thoughtful person that I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past year and a half. Please help me welcome Mr. Justin Thomas to the podcast. Welcome, my friend.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words too. I
Yeah.
do appreciate it, and yeah, I'm glad that you have a little bit of AC that's blowing on you because
Yeah, this could be a different
summertime without
conversation. Yeah, yeah, this could be not a good thing if I didn't have air,
So
right?
funny.
So, hey,
people's mood
Justin,
changes completely without AC for sure.
Yes.
yeah, if you make them hot or angry, not a good situation, So, or hot or hungry, like that's not good. So, anyway,
No,
yeah. So, Justin, for the people that who might not know you, don't have the pleasure and haven't had the get to experience that I get, tell them a little bit about who you are and how you found insurance, because that's always a fun story.
of course. Well, one, I'm incredibly grateful to be here and to know you, Carrie, and just getting to know you over the years. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me on your podcast. And so, looking forward to the conversation. Yeah, so nobody like wakes up and falls into insurance. So it is always interesting to ask, like, how do people get into insurance? And so, mine was, I was in the oil and gas industry and had a close friend of mine that, that knew somebody in the insurance industry. And we were talking one night and he said, have you ever, considered looking into insurance and, having a career in insurance? And I was like, I have no clue how you even get into insurance or even make money, how it works. And so, long story short, I ended up meeting up with one of his friends that was very successful on the captive side. And so he pulled up in a Ferrari, and I said, whatever you're doing, I want to do it. So, that's really, the engagement of getting into the insurance side. I started my career on the captive retail property and casualty side, took over from a 30-year agent. And within the first 6 months of us taking over, we produced more in 6 months than he did in 30 years combined. And within about 18 months, we were fourth in the company with that captive. And so that, that bit the bug as far as, engagement of the insurance industry, and I loved it, and been in the insurance industry ever since and have a strong passion for it. So did transition to the independent side. We obviously went through a couple cycles that anybody who's been in the space for a while goes through those cycles, and on the captive side, that's not the spot to be in, going through a cycle. And so we transitioned to the independent side, and this is where we started the current venture that we're in right now, which is called YourPolicy. And so that your policy it started was all centered around building a policy for the needs of our clients, and with those clients as we navigate the cycles in the market and their needs as a business or as personal, putting them with the right carriers with the right products, and navigating the lifespan of that client. And so it's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
Justin, first of all, I love the idea of naming that venture Your Policy. Fits exactly with the mission. Love that. On this podcast, we have been having lots of conversations with agencies about how AI is impacting their space and retail distribution anything distribution. I would think AI is having a really big impact on that space as well. We never really talk about how are we seeing AI impacting like the policyholders, right? The actual insureds. Are you guys seeing like a really big draw of that, especially with creating these kind of custom, not custom as in like you're going to Lloyd's and creating like custom policies for all of them, but like, are you seeing a lot of that pop up in these tighter knit clients you're working with?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. One, if you kind of zoom out a little bit, yeah, the way that I'm viewing it, one, I thought AI would be, I figured we'd probably be about like 10 years away, whenever how far out it is. And it's coming like a tidal wave, in certain parts it's already here. And I still think it's early in adoption and just like seeing like mass transformation across the board. But I think it's happening much faster than I thought it would happen, and it's here. And really, the analogy that I've been using is like we're going from a shovel to an excavator is what's happening. And most people really don't. And even I'm still wrapping my head around certain pieces because of just how big it is and how powerful and how exactly is it going to really change. Because I think like how we're doing things today is going to look radically different over the next few years. I think it's going to flip not only our industry upside down, I think in a positive way too, in a way that it needs to happen. Because at the end of the day, it's the client experience, right? We're in the Amazon age where people want things quickly. They don't have time to wait, weeks for a quote to come back. Like we don't have time for that.
Right.
And so it needs to change, and I'm really excited about it. And to answer your question, I don't think there's a ton of impact just yet on the client side of it from the brokerage piece, but I think that part is coming. There are some pieces that we're using right now, but as far as like mass adoption, not seen it quite yet, but that could change here in the near future.
Yeah. How do you, I mean, that's going to have a super big impact on coverages for those clients, though, right? Like, have you started having conversations with carriers like, hey, when this pops up, this will happen? Or is any of that even in the realm of discussion yet?
Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because you have some carriers that I mean, I'm even sad to even say this, but there's carriers that are still on paper. So,
Of course they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
and so,
agents actually, Justin, I had agents during COVID that basically said the only reason we're going into our office is to get the paper mail to send to our clients because the carrier doesn't have the ability to send electronically. Like that is the only reason anybody in our team is going into the office. Think about that for a minute. So that same carrier is now in this age of AI. That's crazy town. You know what I
Insane.
mean?
yeah, so that's where, like, even from an agent standpoint, we're seeing it as well. Like, there's agencies still on paper as well, and it's a scary spot to be in, especially how fast technology is picking up right now. I mean, now we're about to be moving at breakneck speeds now as far as how quickly things are evolving.
So
So it's who those carriers who is going to act like who right now from a carrier standpoint is looking into AI. How can they adopt AI, and how are the workflows and all this going to change? And those are the ones from an agency side that we should be considering. Like how can the relationship get tighter, right? And so communication falling back and forth, how can that get tighter and how can we be more integrated with those carrier partners going into the future?
yeah.
So not everybody is doing that. There's a lot of carriers and even agencies that are not, they haven't even, they're still on paper.
Yeah, yeah. You
So
know, Justin, I've been in the industry for about 16 years, and I had an agent once tell me that the agent of the future that's going to win is the one that can marry data, technology, and relationships. So as I'm listening to your background in the captive world, when you're independent and you're competing with a captive, they've got the speed. They have one system, they've got one source, they've got one thing. So they've got speed all day long. You don't have to come up with a process and all these things. But in the independent world, we've got choice and we've got, potentially better products, bigger reach, et cetera. I think we're now at the cusp where what that agent said to me years ago is coming true. Those that can leverage the tools that are out there to be able to compete in a speed way and provide the best, fastest, most comprehensive are the ones that are going to win. That's my view of it. But what that looks like practically inside an agency is where it kind of breaks down. Like theoretically, sounds great. But tell me, you run a pretty nice operation. You have a lot of employees. What does it look like inside an agency your size today? And what do you think it's going to look like maybe in the next year? Can you give a little bit of perspective about practically how are we putting that in practice?
Yeah, this is where I think we're still early stage. And for us, YP, we're 300 employees now. And so, an agency that's smaller can test things a little bit easier and can make changes, and
Sure.
you can turn the ship quickly.
Mhm.
This is like we got to be really careful on what we roll out. Make sure there's a lot that goes into it before just rolling things out. But there's pieces where I would say at the corporate level for us, there's different parts of it that we're testing with AI, and it's just changed the process of how we go about certain things. And this is where it really starts for me. Just it's a mindset shift. Like you have to really relook, like zoom out and relook at this is how we did it, and now it's instead of going this way, it's gonna go this and this. Okay, it's hard to wrap your head around how is that gonna work, but so I think it's really just the mindset part of it, and what I would say, and I would agree with you on, the relationship side is, in my opinion, that is still going to be the differentiator. Like you have to make sure that the relationship side of it is still a part of it, and I don't believe that that's gone away. At least in the retail commercial piece, personal lines, there could be some pieces on some of the personal lines part that could get automated a little bit, but I think for the most part, the relationship side of it is not going anywhere. At what I would say, some of the pieces that we're working on that's really important, and what I would encourage listeners is document everything from all of the processes, because there's not quite vendors that can plug in and play right now to a degree. There are some, but not a ton. But there is going to be vendors that can plug in here in the near future, and the only way for them to be able to plug in is you got to have everything documented.
Mhm.
So, being able to, and those are things that you can take action on today. It's like, hey, I wouldn't worry about, what vendor I need to select right now. Like I would be focused on knowledge. Like start wrapping your head around what is AI, what's the trend, what's happening, where's it going, and that will better prepare how is this going to impact my agency and how can I adapt and change going into the future. And then the other piece of it is I would make sure that you're documenting everything. And that's a big piece of what we've been doing over the last few years is thankfully what we have is been documenting every single piece of the business, from a light switch of how you turn it on and off to, how do you add or, remove a car. Like everything
Yeah.
is documented. And then you'll be able to feed that to the AI here in the near future, and certain tasks that you've been doing before you won't be doing tomorrow. So, we've been talking about it internally, and it's, today's problems, won't be tomorrow's problems.
Right.
It's going to change. And so things that we're trying to solve for today, we won't need to solve for tomorrow. And so
Absolutely.
that's what I would say is just those are things that we're doing right now is not like this mass construction project right now. It's more of getting things prepared because we know it's coming, and getting house in order so that way we can have a mass adoption. And so that's what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah. It's funny listening to you say, don't be doing a huge build, just get your house in order, make sure your data is correct and clean, because it's exactly what our message at Agency Focus has been internally. There's growing pains with any growing business, and it's hard to look at a growing pain and say, I recognize the fact that this is a growing pain right here, but I'm not going to throw a bunch of infrastructure and process at it, especially to your team members that it like hurts on a daily basis, and have
Yeah,
to say, you need to wait 6 months, because it's either going to take me 6 months to fix this process, or it's going to take me 6 months for you never to have to see this process ever again in your entire life. Which would you
yeah,
like? Do you want it
that's
to
so
be a
good.
year before it's fully fixed, or do you want it to be fixed, but then fixed again and then fixed again, because we're not just doing it the first way. So
Yeah,
getting the data in the right spot and documented and making sure it's accurate and having full confidence that it's accurate is always the hardest part. It's
yeah. And I would say this is where I agree, I completely agree with you, by the way. And so part of like our model at YP is we do quite a bit of partnerships, and a lot of the partnerships that we do is because of this reason right here. Is they're like, I don't have the time to figure out AI. I don't have time to figure out the tech stack. I don't have time to figure out all these different pieces, and I'm still on paper. And so some of the big things, taking that off of their plate. But for that part of it, our project right there is just, let's just convert them from paper to, the
Right.
digital side of it, and then get that house in order where we can get the data, it's clean, it's organized, and that takes time to do that. And the other part of it is that we're doing as well is, it's change management. And so it's getting the team prepared from a mental standpoint of, like, hey, you're not necessarily telling them this, but your world is about to change completely. And
Yeah.
it's preparing them mentally of, there's change that's coming, and how do you manage the change management. And I
yeah.
think that's really, really critical from a culture standpoint, team standpoint, and getting the team prepared for the change. And so, but it's sticking with the basics, right? I mean, you got to have the house in order, and it sounds logical, but you got to have the house in order to be able to adopt some of these tech pieces that are out and that are coming out here in the near future.
So I'm going to ask some specific questions because AI seems like this big, crazy tidal wave. Like that was the best word I think I've heard for it, right? It's coming and it's coming fast, and there's just no way to slow it down. And I believe that the independent insurance agency system, those that adopt and those that evolve, that relationship thing is the winner all day long. I think it's going to be healthy. I think that there will be people that say, I'm out. Like, I can't possibly make this evolution. It's coming too fast and it's not the way I've always done it. So therefore it might be time for me to exit. But I do believe there's tons of people that are going to adopt and go forward. So
Yeah,
for those that want
absolutely.
to adopt and go forward, what tools right now should they be? Do you have a list of some tools that you think, if this isn't on your radar, it should be? And I'm not talking the shiny new things, but maybe some core ideas around what should you be thinking about? What are the game changers that you think should be on someone's radar?
Yeah, I mean, I think and I agree with you. I think there's going to be those pioneers that want to figure it out, and they will figure it out. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say that if this is the first time that you're hearing of AI, then it's, experiment with the tools that are available, and there's a bunch of them, right? I mean, there's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Grok, there's a bunch of them that you can go and play with. And so I would say get your hands dirty in the sandbox and just
Yeah.
just experience the power of it and see. I'll just give you an example. We are one of our youngest. We have three girls, and one of our youngest. We were going to teach them how to swim, and so went on ChatGPT. I typed in, "Hey, build a swim program. I want to teach my child how to swim over the next 6 weeks." And it spit out a 4-page, detailed by the day of exactly what I needed to do step by step with the right toys, and how to not put them in the water at first, with work on these functions. Like, it gave an extremely detailed 4-page within seconds. I didn't say minutes, I didn't say hours, I said seconds. And so something that would have taken me probably a week to build, I was able to get it within seconds. And so that's something personally, but on the business side, it's the same thing. I mean, you throw in a legal document that would take an attorney 2 or 3 days to review, and you're getting it back within a couple seconds with a summary and bullet points to look at and different pieces. I mean, it's really game changing. So I would say those are some tools that are on the market, off the shelf, that anybody can get access to, that I would highly recommend. Just if it's the first time, just dive in and start just getting your hands dirty with these tools. And that's really going to be the ground starter right there in a lot of different ways. And it's, for me, it's opening up our minds of, okay, this is the tool, this is the power of it. And each of them are different, right? A little bit different, but for the most part, they're all pretty powerful. The big thing that I'm learning with it, it's a living organism. It's learning itself by the day.
It is.
At a very, very fast clip. And so, yeah, that's some pieces that I would say, some tools that are off the shelf that people can use now. There's nothing complicated about it, that they can go literally within seconds and start playing with it.
I think there's so many use cases that you can use for just easily starting playing with it. I was talking to my almost 90-year-old grandpa the other day, and I just was, hey grandpa, have you ever used ChatGPT? I use it more than Google, and for some reason it occurred to me like, hey, you should ask him if he's ever used it. Like that'll be fun. And he said no, and he asked me like what I use it for. And I said, well, grandpa, I honestly, a really good use case for you would be your grocery shopping. Tell it you live in Annapolis, Maryland, what store you like to shop at, what I want to eat the Mediterranean diet this week. I want 2 dinners, 2 lunches, a breakfast, and whatever. Make me a grocery list with pictures of everything that I need to buy. And he was like, holy crap, Lindsay, that was crazy. And I was like, yeah, like imagine next time, you have a lot of people coming over to your house, you can just tell it, give me the grocery list for 25 people. We're going to have this for dinner, and then give me the recipes to make it all. And he was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. So there's so many different things you can try it out with, and it's easy to use. It's like you're texting someone, right? But it's not a someone, it's a machine.
I hope they start getting some of those reactions on camera.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I would have loved to have seen it. Actually, his use case should be tell me all the best train stations that I should visit, because he's like a train buff that is, and how do I get there, and how could I create a trip in order to, see all the trains that I want to see in my lifetime. But it's super interesting though that it does take things that you would take hours and hours and hours to put together and
Yes.
makes it very, very easy. And what I love is, do you want me to turn this into a, branded PDF? Do you want me to turn this into a what? Like, it also then gives you options. What do you want to do with this? So I've got to ask the question, because everybody in the world, anytime you talk about using this, the question then goes to, well, what about security? Well, what about confidentiality? Well, what about, how are you dealing with it? Because you have an organization of 300 people that could all be going rogue using this chat GPT in many different ways. How do
Yeah.
you go about making sure that you do it responsibly and do
Yeah.
it in a way that makes sense?
This is where, and to that specific reason is why we haven't rolled it out and really pushed it throughout the organization, is because I still think there's pieces that still need to evolve just from a regulatory standpoint, that, there's still some security risks that are involved there. And so, but I do think here in the near future, that's going to change. Like it's going to be where, enterprises can actually adopt it in a secured way, and I don't think that we're that far off from it. Is our take and what we're seeing. There's use cases that we're using it in parts of the business, but we haven't rolled it out across the entire business. But there's a lot of, I would say, preparation happening behind the scenes as far as preparing us to be able to adopt it across the organization. And some of those pieces, like I mentioned earlier, Carey and Lindsay, is, it, for us, we have to prepare the team for it. Like, even if it was available today for us to roll it out, We couldn't. We have to prepare the team for it. We have to prepare the organization for it. We have to prepare the data for it. We have to prepare the workflows for it. So there's a lot of prep work that has
There's
to
a lot.
happen.
Yeah.
And we still don't know, there's pieces that I'm seeing for sure how it's going to evolve and change parts of the business, but there's still a lot of unknown of exactly how it's all going to play out. I can kind of see where we're going, and for sure it's going to impact this, this, and this. But it's like how much of an impact is it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it a 50% impact or is it an 80% impact? Those are some of the pieces that are still kind of up in the air to really see exactly how it's going to play out. It's definitely coming.
And it's
Yeah.
funny, like
Yeah.
if someone would have asked me at the beginning of my career when, the internet wasn't as widely used as it is today, because I'm that old. Nobody had an idea of what the impact would be. I think the reality is this one's just coming faster. The level of adoption is so much quicker. So even though that took a while to change how we work, it was because the level of adoption was at a different rate. This one,
Yeah.
I mean, it is unbelievably how fast. And the fact that Lindsay, a 2 generation step, can get her grandfather to be thinking about how to move it into his world. It's not difficult. You know what I mean? So the level, the barriers to entry are small and the level of adoption is very quick. It's just a matter of to see to what degree in each of our organizations, what's that going to look like. But I think
Yeah.
you're smart though to take a measured step to it rather than, we can just do anything here, because that I think is where the danger is in all of that.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's really like it boils down to like five different pieces, and it's experiment daily. Like how can you play with it and experiment with it? Document everything. Everything that you have right now. Document everything. Invest into AI literacy. Like invest into obtaining the knowledge of how people are using it. There's a bunch of research coming out about it. Testimonies. There's a lot of things you can do to get some literacy around it. And then, depending on the organization, of the listeners, but change management, getting your people prepared and adapting to the new, not only the new tools, but the new roles, the new workflows. Like it's starting to wrap their head around that piece. And then, as vendors are popping up, it's building trust with those vendors. What is their compliance? What does their security look like? What is their capabilities? Are they here today, gone tomorrow? They build it and they're selling this thing tomorrow. Like what are you've seen that time and time in the tech industry, right? Where, it's just they're building it to sell it, and then is one of the bigger ones just going to buy it and shelve it?
That's right.
We don't want to build an organization around that with a vendor, and then if they shelve the product, then we're having to change the whole organization again. I would say those are the five pieces that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That I would say I would encourage others that could be helpful in their line of duty or their agency to be able to navigate the future.
Yeah. Well, I am excited to hear and see what you guys end up doing with AI once you get there, and we'll have to have you come back on for an update after you guys have landed on a product and what it's going to do for you.
I can tell you I'm biting at the bit for it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pumped. It was awesome to have you on, Justin. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and giving the listeners some just things to think about in terms of AI and all those fun things.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank
for
you guys
sure.
for having me. And it's been a pleasure, and looking forward to doing it again.
Absolutely.